Have you ever stopped to think about who actually decides what gets put into a history book? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on how history is really written. And you might be surprised to find out it's less about a single set of facts and a whole lot more about telling a very particular kind of story.
For so many of us, I think the word history just brings back these memories of, long lists of dates we had to cram for a test. It can really feel like the whole subject is just about who did what, and more importantly, exactly when they did it. And this isn't just a feeling we got in the classroom. For a really long time, this was the standard way of doing things. History was seen as this nice, clean timeline of major events. Battles, coronations, the deaths of kings and queens. The dates were basically the pillars holding the whole story up. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? I mean, what if history is less about a list of whens and more about the messy, dynamic story of how and why our world actually changed over time? Okay, so let's dive into this a little. Just think about the world around you. Have you ever wondered when people in India first started drinking tea, or when the first railways started crisscrossing the country? These kinds of everyday questions are actually huge historical questions. And here's the really crucial part. You can't pin a single, neat date on these things. It's not like people all woke up one Tuesday and decided they suddenly love tea, right? No, it was a gradual process, a taste that developed over a long, long stretch of time. So often, history is really about these slow, massive shifts, not just those big, dramatic events. Okay, but if history is really about these big, slow changes, then why are our history books still so full of specific dates? Well, the answer to that question reveals one of the biggest secrets about writing history. It all comes down to whose story is being told. Take this, for example. For a very long time, histories of British India were basically structured around a timeline of British governor-generals. The story would start with the first one, Warren Hastings, and it would end with the very last one, Lord Mountbatten. Their appointments, their policies, their big moves, those were the dates that were considered important. And focusing on rulers like this, well, it creates a huge blind spot. It gives us a history of policies and battles and official achievements, for sure, but it completely leaves out the lives of ordinary people. What were they eating? How did their communities work? By focusing only on the people in power, we pretty much lose the story of, well, almost everyone else. Now, this problem of perspective, it goes even deeper than just choosing which dates matter. It also totally shapes how historians divide up the entire past into different eras or periods. This whole process has a name. It's called periodization. And on the surface, it seems totally logical, right? We just group time into chunks like ancient or medieval to make it all easier to understand. But the choices historians make about where they draw those lines, well, that can be incredibly revealing and often pretty political. So let's look at two examples from Indian history. First up, you've got James Mill's model from 1817. He divided the past by the religion of the rulers: Hindu, Muslim, and then British. This is really problematic. It basically suggests that huge, complex societies can be boiled down to a single religious label. And it frames the British era as a necessary step up from a so-called dark past. Then there's the one we see more often: ancient, medieval, and modern. But the whole idea of a modern period, with all its talk of science and reason and democracy, that's a Western idea. For most people living under British rule in India, that modernity definitely did not include things like liberty or equality. And that is exactly why many historians today think it's much more accurate to call this period colonial. See, that term doesn't just mark a block of time. It describes a power dynamic. It puts the experience of being subjugated and all the massive political, economic, and cultural changes that came with it right at the center of the story. So, if we want to move beyond just the stories of rulers and really understand these deeper, more complex changes, where do we even look? How do historians find the evidence to tell these other stories? Well, the answer is all in the sources. A historian is kind of like a detective, and the type of clue they decide to follow completely changes the story they can end up telling. One huge source of information from the colonial period is from the British administration itself. You see, they had this powerful belief that you had to write everything down, not just for the history books, but for control. This created a whole culture of memos, reports, and surveys, and all of it was carefully preserved in official archives. And this quote, it just brilliantly illustrates that official point of view. This is from a real report about a naval mutiny in 1946. Just listen to the language. Completely under control, no violence, no further trouble expected.
It's so calm, so detached. It's designed to make sure everyone in power feels like everything is totally fine. So here's the really crucial point. While these records are incredibly valuable, they only ever show one side of the story. They tell us what the officials thought, and they tell us the version of events they wanted to preserve for the future. They just don't tell us what people on the ground were actually feeling. To find that out, we have to look somewhere else. We have to go searching for diaries, for newspapers, for the popular little books sold in local markets, and for the autobiographies that were written outside of the official government view. Now, of course, these sources have their own biases too, but they give us a really vital other side to the story. Now just listen to this contrast. Compare that official report we just saw with this newspaper account of a police strike from the very same year. A striker is quoted saying the food they're given isn't even fit for human consumption. All of a sudden, we get this raw, emotional, and completely different look at what was happening in 1946. We hear a human voice. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Why does it even matter that history can be told from all these different angles, using different clues? Well, it's because the stories we choose to tell about the past have a profound effect on how we understand our present. The truth is, history is never one single definitive story. It's a collection of countless different stories and experiences, all happening at the same time. That's why the textbook this explainer is based on is so perfectly titled Our Pasts, plural. There isn't just one past, there are many. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The next time you read a history book, or maybe watch a historical film, just ask yourself, whose story is this? And, maybe just as importantly, whose story is being left out?